6-2 should come back to you from geometry and also from the stuff that we did in the first week of school so that you would remember geometry. I do have a note to help you with one of the questions in the homework because obviously if this was a geometry class then it would be called geometry. It is college pre-cal, so it is leveled up. There's a question in the homework that is more challenging. I think I copied it. Stand by. Hold on. We're going to look at solving right triangles, and then applied problems means we're looking at word problems that involve solving right triangles. Now that we can find function values for any acute angle, we can solve. This is recalling what you remember from geometry. In a triangle ABC, it says find little a, little b, and angle B. Remember, every single right triangle has 3 angles, 3 sides. What angle measure do you already know in every right triangle? The 90. So if you recall the phrase to, go to what you know. I say that all the time. Go to what you know and start there, because then you can knock out something immediately and then you can focus on what the other stuff is. When they say solve right triangles, they mean find all missing values, meaning all 3 sides, all 3 angles. You do have to make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, or you will get these wrong, but they'll be so wrong it'll feel weird, something's wrong, and then you should remember, oh yeah, it's supposed to be in degree mode. So looking at example 1, we've got, this is my hypotenuse. And then I know this angle A is 61.7. So I'm going to go to what I know. I know the most about the angles. I can find angle B by doing what? Yep. You know that all 3 angles have to add to 180. There is a shortcut. I'm going to show it to you. If you don't like it, then ignore me. The shortcut is, what's one of the angles in every right triangle? 90. Which means what's left? 90. So the shortcut is that the 2 acute angles of every right triangle have to add up to 90. So instead of doing 180 minus 90 minus 61.7, you could do 90 minus 61.7. And you'll still get the same answer. It does not matter though. If you go 180 minus, is perfectly fine. If you understand that 90 has to be the sum of the other 2. So angle B is 28.3 degrees. Now we've got to solve for side A and side B. We're going to use basic trig here. Recall what I said from that first day when we were reviewing. I don't want to use the angle that I just found in the small chance that I messed up or rounded wrong or whatever. So I want to focus my attention on the angle that they actually gave me, and I'm going to label my triangle from it. So little a would be the opposite, and little b would be adjacent. And now I'm going to solve, just pick one. If I solve for A, that means I'm going to have to use A and the opposite and the hypotenuse, right? Do you see that? Let me show you where I'm getting. Don't write this. Red means wrong. if I set it up tan 61.7, I'm going to get A over B. Can I solve that? No, I can't go anywhere because I've got two variables. So you have to be strategic when you're doing this, and you have to use which trig function would only allow one variable in it. So sine is a perfect choice, or cosine, right? Doesn't matter. If you use sine of 61.7, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that would be little a over, is it 106.2? And now that is solvable because there's only one variable. Go back to that review that we did. Think to yourself, how do I solve it? A is the variable. I need A by itself. You're going to cross multiply this with that little elbow arrow that I say to remind you to bring it to the front. And you write exactly what you see, and now you're ready to go to your calculator. We're going to go to the nearest tenth on these. Type it in your calculator and confirm if you get 93.5. Make sure you're typing this in, because when we do take, bless you, when we do take this exam, you cannot ask for help on how to type it in. And then now you would repeat this process, but now the target is to solve for little b. Which trig function is that going to entail? Cosine. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Same exact procedure. You're going to cross multiply that to the front. Once you type that in and confirm that you got the same answer as me, open to the next slide and go ahead and try it. It's another practice problem. And if you're not getting it, then give me some type of stink eye and I'll come and help. Now, directions on this one say find angle D and angle F, then find side D. But I personally would find side D first, just for me, because of the fact that that's what I know the most about is the sides. In finding the missing side, what would you use? Pythagorean theorem. Remember, the only restriction on the Pythagorean theorem is which letter in the formula. C has to be the hypotenuse. So you would plug in what you know. Does it matter how I plug in the 13 and the D? No, doesn't matter, because they're gonna be the same regardless. You need to leave it as a radical. Oh no, wait. Well, I did both. I left it as a radical, and then I also wrote the decimal rounded to the nearest 10. It does, yeah. I think you end up with 360, and then you square root that. Now you've got to find angle D and angle F. This is where, again, you have to be strategic. Let's focus our attention on angle D. That means you need to imagine like standing in that corner. You want to use the two sides that you already know because angle D is your variable, right? We don't know angle D. So if I'm focusing my attention from angle D, then I have to use what? What numbers for my fraction? 13 and 23. How's 13 positioned to angle D? It's adjacent. I don't want to label adjacent because when I go to F, it might be, actually no, when we find D, then we know F immediately. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and label it. So which trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine. So I'm going to set it up. Cosine of angle D is adjacent over hypotenuse. Remember where your variable is. It's the angle, which means the cosine goes to the other side by its inverse. And I went to the nearest 10. Did you get 55.6 degrees? If you know for a fact you did that right, then you could confidently find the third angle by doing, you could do trig again, or you could do the 90 minus angle D, right? There's two ways you could do it. You could do both if you thought maybe you messed one up. So angle F would be 90 minus 55.6. Is that 40 or 34.4? I think the biggest thought process is in that first trig function where you have to be strategic in determining which one to use. Any questions on those? All right, now let's apply it in a word problem. You're walking at Niagara Falls. A tourist walking toward Horseshoe Falls on a walkway next to the Niagara Parkway notices the entrance to the Cave of the Winds attraction directly across the Niagara River. That is a mouthful sentence. She continues walking for another 1,000 feet, finds the entrance is still visible, but at approximately a 50-degree angle to the walkway. Having said all of that, thank goodness there is a picture here. You've got a right triangle. This side here measures 1,000 feet. This angle here is 50 degrees. There's a side here missing and a hypotenuse here missing. It says, how many feet is she from the entrance to the Cave of the Winds? What side are they saying solve for? Well, wait, where is she standing? While visiting the Cave of the Winds? Is she standing down here now at Horseshoe Falls? Yeah. She walks towards Horseshoe Falls. She's right here. All right, so now it says, how many feet is she from the entrance of the Cave of the Winds? So that's saying solve for C. So A means solve for C. Which trig function would I use? If she's standing here, focus your attention on the 50. That 1,000 is actually this side over here. I would be using cosine, right? So cosine of 50 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Just like in the review, you're going to cross multiply that variable to the other side. And sometimes you're done and sometimes you have to keep going. In this case, and if you'll show your work, you'll see exactly what to do next. In this case, we're not done. We have cosine 50 in the way. Luke, stay with me. Something about that chair. Cosine 50 is attached by multiplication. I'm going to move it by division over here to the right-hand side, right? I'm going to divide it to over here. And that's what you're going to type in your calculator. 1,000 divide cosine 50. We're going to go to the nearest tenth. You get 1,555.7 feet. What's the approximate width of the Niagara River at the point directly across from the entrance to the Cave of the Winds? I feel like I'm like reading a novel. That means find what side? B. So solve for B. Alright, which trig function? You want to use the 50 and the 1,000, and now you want B. Tangent, right? Tangent would be opposite and adjacent. So tan 50 opposite over adjacent. This one's short and sweet, right? Because our variable's in the top of the fraction. Then elbow arrow that to the front. 1,000 tan 50 equals B. And now you're ready to go to your calculator. Yeah. So that's perfect stopping point. You need to go ahead and start the 6-2 homework. I'll go in and check if anything needs to be removed. We'll pick up on this tomorrow. 6-2 homework will be next Wednesday. Will be due Friday, 8 p.m. 6-2. Okay?